Okay, so thank you for joining us. I'm going to share my screen and so bear with me. Again, I'm probably going to ask you to raise your hand to see in a minute whether you can see my screen, so bear with me. Okay, so just raise your hands again if you can see the screen. Brilliant. You should be seeing the front cover of webinar. Perfect. Okay, so again, thank you for joining me. My name is Jack Wright. I'm the sales director here at YourDMS, based in the UK, down southwest in Swindon. We've been in business now for over 15 years, delivering solutions just like the one you're going to see today, working across all business sectors and across all departments, but we're focusing mainly on accounts payable today, which is where we see the most paper generated sort of frustrations, if you like, in terms of document and data management. And this is where we try and tie existing and new processes and systems together. I'm going to run you through some PowerPoint slides about the process and the demonstration I'm going to show you after. So that follows in a live demonstration of the solution, and then we can do some Q&A at the end. Again, I'm more than happy for everyone to chip in with some questions. I will be trying to keep an eye on the chat as much as I can. If not, we can cover it all at the end. That's not a problem. So in terms of automation, so we're looking at the 3 A's. So we go automation, approvals, and analytics. 3 of the big things in accounts payable especially. And we're looking at then the process that comes along with that. So why you would be here in terms of what you're looking at today. In the background, it would be to improve your current purchase invoices processes. So when the invoice comes into the business, whether that be via scanned or via email, majority would be email now. It's about how you're managing that. Who has to touch the pieces of paper, or who has to see the information in your organization? Then how is that? How many what the volumes of invoices and what data needs to go where? Gain faster access to important purchase data, streamline the process to pay suppliers. So that's also supplier management. So you're looking at now, can you tighten your relationship with your suppliers and new suppliers that may be? Faster resolution of invoices anomalies. So the solution I'll be showing you today will provide that very quick anomalies, if you like. So where the problems are very quickly to you, so you can deal with them. And again, this will then help you growing and take on more and more invoices should need be. So over the years of producing this type of solution, we've obviously gathered some facts, figures, if you like, and frustrations from the accounts payable teams in particular. And what they were really looking for, they were looking for an efficient process. So something that can give them accurate and timely data straight away, and obviously spotting the problems. So they have to spot the problems, as I said in the previous slide, very quickly in order to be able to deal with them quickly. So the turnaround of when an invoice can be paid, again, you've got your payment terms, 30, 60 days, whatever they may be, but actually what the solution will give you is the fact that you can put all the checks and balances in place and be able to pay them on time, if you like, if not early or whatever it may be. The other really important thing to highlight in this slide as well is data entry. So less data entry, if at all, data entry at all. And the reason why I'm saying that is now you would probably have a pile of pieces of paper on your desk, or a load of emails which contains lots of invoices. That would then typically require someone to type in that information into an account system for then to be put on the payment run, sent for approval, multiple approvals and things like that, where that obviously adds time onto the process. It can also add issues in terms of misspelling certain pieces of information, and also requires a lot of calculations, manual calculations. And also what our solution will also do at the end of this is it will reduce the filing, so you don't have to, where some of our customers that we spoke to previously before embarking on a journey with us, is they were paying for storage compartments or storage centers, in some cases spending thousands and thousands of pounds a month just to store these invoices for retrieval. So you've got to think about stuff with GDPR and data protection, and if obviously you need to get to them. So we're looking today at invoice capture, business intelligence, document management, which obviously incorporates workflow as well, and that's electronic workflow. And the reasons why we do that or look to do that is, again, we've all been through this pandemic, and people that I've spoke to in the last few months has had to drive into the office to collect their invoices that have come over via post, or just getting them signed is very difficult. So this will actually, once it's done the checks and balances, it can actually then distribute the documents or the invoices to where they need to be approved. So in fact, it could go that one document could be seen by 3 or 4 people at once, depending on business rules. So all the validation checks are done outside that. And obviously with the speed of how it gets distributed to multiple places, it should, in theory, reduce days for those to be authorized. So we always find that the managers, directors, or whoever need to approve these will find it a lot easier just to log in and see or receive an email to say, hey, you've got something to log into. So you've got invoices to approve, sorry. And they find that a lot easier just to click a button to say approve or reject on the other side, and you can add a note to say why you've rejected it. With the business intelligence and the overview, so sort of the umbrella, if you like, it gives you faster analytics, so you can have analytics on the fly, so you can give a good overview, while some ERP systems, finance systems, have that built in already, so you'll be able to do your month-end checks and things like that. But they're very bespoke to that sort of, to the finance sector, if you like, or the finance department. But what we're saying here with the analytics side is the process before the invoice goes in to be paid. So what happens with the authorization? How many days does it actually take for the approvals to happen? And that can come, you can start analyzing that now, but the data we're giving you with this type of solution will be able to slowly but surely start reducing those bottlenecks, if you like, and days of approval. Plus the fact is, with all of these solutions, yes, as I said, obviously we're talking about accounts departments specifically today, but it can be scalable across the business. And I'm sure, hopefully you'll be able to see that when we do the demonstration of the other areas that can be worked in. Just some of the facts specifically around invoices that we've gathered, and there are a few on there. So things like the average time taken to process an invoice is 12 days. Fairly long time when you're thinking if you're processing on a mass, so you're processing 1,000, 10,000 invoices per month. 96 of invoices, percent of invoice processing involves keying in data from a piece of paper. And like I said, yes, you may say your invoices come over via email, but if you don't have something like an invoice processing solution that it can automatically recognize information from the page and help out that account's manual data entry, then you're still doing the same thing, whether it's electronic or physical. So that's interesting as well. And again, 70% of invoices now arrive electronically, and probably, I mean, when we did this factors before the pandemic, it's probably heightened now because suppliers are now finding different ways because people weren't in offices as it was back then. So I'm just going to go through a couple of projects or case studies, if you like. Pets Corner, we have been involved with Pets Corner for over 10 years now, starting with just supplying them with a scanner, and then we provided them with document management coupled with workflow, and then just over 7 years ago, we then provided them with an invoice processing solution that caters for all their solutions, invoices across the group, because they're a group of companies underneath the Pet Family umbrella. And that then also integrates with their stock control system, their ERP system, and pulls all that information. So you're starting then to match of what's arrived, when it arrived as well. So you're pulling all that information to then match to the invoice to make sure that what you've ordered and what's been approved on the purchase order, and also then what's been received, is all calculated to then what's been invoiced. So then the accounts department, as we started with sort of what was it, 70 odd stores, they've now grown substantially to 180 stores, and actually they've increased probably by 50 to 60% since that time for invoice volume and things they're looking to sort of calculate, and they haven't increased that, well, they haven't needed to increase the personnel within their accounts department. So their actual administration costs are recalculated just over £40,000 per annum saving, that is, with this type of solution in place. Charlton Athletic, obviously a different sort of sector. Just to show you what they do, we produced purchase order in form for them because their biggest issue was the purchase order inside of things. So we produced an electronic form which goes then to the document management system for approval. Once that's been approved, the invoice will come in, same way as what Pets Corner. That will then get matched off against the approved purchase order. If the invoice comes in, just as an example, if the invoice does come in and the purchase order hasn't been approved, the drop-down list or the invoice will stay, so it won't go into the ERP system, the finance system, it won't go into there unless the purchase order has been approved. So once that's been approved, the systems will talk to each other and say, yes, it's been approved, I'm happy for you to carry on your checks and balances and then ultimately pay. Again, they had piles and piles of paper on their desks. That's completely been gone now. They're pretty much paperless in terms of the odd one coming via post, but they're pretty much paperless, and that's been 5-6 years now in the making with them. It took some time to mold them into to the way of thinking. They've got people that work off site into the training ground and things like that. But they're really allowed to, again, not necessarily increase their personnel within inside their accounts system, accounts department, but they've really now tightened up that time for approval within the workflows. Again, just some of the project examples, just to show you the different people, sectors that we work with and have done projects for. I did mention briefly about integrations. There is very few systems that we won't be able to integrate with. We integrate pretty much everyone. We have a conversation with your supplier of your finance system to see what the best way of the information is to go into it. We take on board all of that for you, so we have the conversations for you. We just need to be put in front of the person that we need to have those conversations with. So anything is possible in the world of technology, as they say, and yeah, we haven't found one yet that we can't integrate with in some form. Okie dokie. So I'm just going to check if there's any questions. Everyone still happy? Hand up if you're still happy. I can see obviously you're still muted, so cool. Okay, so I'm going to take you through now the live demonstration. So we're going to start, as I said, with the invoices coming into the business, and I'm going to take you through the typical journey that we would follow and implement. So I'm going to show you this manually, but this could be coming in via email. You can scan straight into the system, but these will be as a watch folder. So it doesn't matter what time of day these come into the business. So it could come in 4 a.m. in the morning, a bit like a Pets Corner type scenario. This will start the recognition process. I'm going to show you this manually just for the purpose of the demonstration. And what it's now doing is it's now matching against your finance system. So there's business rules in the back end that you can match about the supplier and PO number especially, because then what the system is now doing from a recognition perspective, it's turning into it's OCR, and so it's optical character recognition of the page, and it's recognizing those key words off the page like invoice number, where the supplier is, and it's starting to work and pull back that information. And as you can see, it's working away and without me, with just the system being uploaded. So that's just an automated process that will happen. And it starts giving you this sort of dashboard view, if you like, of all the invoices. So we've got 6 in here, and we can start seeing the information that it's picking up. We've also got things status. So we've got verification, which means it needs my attention. And we've got export, that means it's ready and it's matched the business rules. Now, in a typical scenario, to make things quicker, you guys wouldn't see, or an accounts payable team wouldn't see any of the invoices themselves. So in terms of if it hits the export, so that just means you'll only see, out of the 6, you'll only see 5. Sorry, you only see 2. The rest of them would go through in a typical world, but I'm just going to show you this. And if I was to click on an invoice that needs my attention, I can clearly see the invoice on the left-hand side. So I can see the makeup, all different sizes, different layouts as different suppliers will send them in. And I can see where my information. So there's business units, and the reason why we talk about business units is because you could have multiple companies that you're trading under. So you can have multiple companies built in here. Vendors, obviously they're your suppliers, and that pulls back the information from a database table that you'd already have in your finance system. So you already have this information. We may have to go through a process of cleaning that data, so just to make sure that it is correct and it will match. And where you see these fields, so if I start to click down here, I'll see where it's OCR'd off the page. So where it's read the information from the page, I can clearly see that, excuse me, over here. So here it's telling me about the totals, and it's also given me a warning about this total doesn't match down here, because £10.60. So if I was just to expand the details here, so the additional tax net values, so £10.60 and £12.12 does not add £12. Okay, so what it's actually doing is it's given me a prompt to say, hey, that doesn't match. This is what it's matching to. So if I was to select that, it then creates this, yes, error's gone, that does match. So it's just a little bit of just an oversight in terms of there, but the system is always doing the calculations for us. So instead of now having to fill this information out, and like I said, in a manual world, you'd have to fill all this out in your finance system. You're now looking at this information that's already been read from the page, and you as a human are just literally going down and seeing this information yourselves. Okay, happy with that? The next one I'm going to talk about is this one. So this has got a verification. So this one, again, it's picked up a lot of information. It does have an invoice number and the values are there, but actually it's got a problem. So if I was to click down on the issue, it takes me straight to the problem. So as we can see, we've got multiple line items. We've got a purchase order number there. And if I click on details, I can see the purchase order that is pulled up here. So this is all the information on the purchase order. Looks a bit like a spreadsheet. And it's showing me here the information, and it's also matching it on here. Okay. So where you see here, I've got £245 for the posters. Actually, on the agreed amount was £240, because it actually doesn't match up here for me. Okay, so the calculation is wrong. If I was to amend that, I then tab off of it, and it creates then no more errors as well. So I've made that correct with inside there. The information we found here too is we've also pulled back nominal codes. Okay, so it's actually nominal coded the lines for me. So you can see the difference within the nominal codes, nominal descriptions, all happened automatically for me. And again, we do lookups in the back end for your nominal codes. So we don't interpret them obviously ourselves. Again, the vendor or the supplier itself will have its default or nominal codes themselves. So that's populated there already. So again, you don't need to touch that. Where things can be defaulted and where information can be defaulted, is much better for the system. Okay, so come off that and save. There is a function for the training element of it. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the training element just very briefly. So training of these invoices. So if I had an invoice here, so I'm just going to clear this result here, and I'm just going to recognize this again. So in the back end, this will run automatically for you. But if a supplier turns around and says to you, misses a piece of information. So as I said at the start, it's looking for information off the page. As you can see, invoice number is no longer present because there is no invoice number on this page. So there's no keyword of invoice number. So if I was to walk into any business, I wouldn't necessarily know that I could have a good guess, but I wouldn't necessarily know that was the invoice number. So what we have to do is tell the system, or the users will tell the system in the accounts team, that there on this page in this field is the invoice number. So 2 clicks. Okay. Now again, automatically it would automatically change that, so then that goes as export because we've got the values. If I was to train it, now again, I'm showing you this manually, but this would happen automatically when you're exporting. It goes into a little batch in the back end. And then if I was to load another invoice for the same supplier, so I've got another one prepared here. So another invoice comes in for the same supplier. What it does is it recognizes that supplier, it recognizes the layout, and it matches it accordingly. So you don't have to keep repeatedly doing the same change. So it will then come up with export. Excuse me. And as you can see here, I've got 2 different invoice numbers, but the layout is exactly the same. Okay, so it's exactly the same on there, and we have that invoice there with no invoice number, as in the word invoice number, but it's actually recognized my training element of it. Okay, I'm just going to delete that out of there. Okay, so now we have the original documents. So we have the original documents here. And what we're going to do is, again, all of this would have gone already, but I'm just going to show you. So I'm going to highlight them all, and I'm going to export. That's going to do 2 things. So that's going to start populating this little hot folder, if you see on the right-hand side, with the actual images itself. And it's also going to come equipped with a data file with information within inside it that we can populate the finance system later on. Now, this system itself in here will populate every 60 seconds. And what will happen there is it means that you don't have to do the filing. It will go automatically filing and kick off a workflow. And also, like I said, the data file itself will then populate the holding area, if you like, for your finance system. Now, that can happen both ways. So we can do it after it's been approved. We can do it before it's been approved. And as you can see, the invoices are now starting to, well, they've disappeared out of the folder. And that means that's kicked off a workflow. Okay, so if I pull up now, I'm going to pull up our document management system on the right-hand side. And I'm also going to pull up the business intelligence side on the right-hand side. Okay, so if I just do a quick refresh, I'm going to see those invoices now that have just come in. I did have one already in there with a range payment. So one's already in there. So as you can see on the left-hand side, we've got value of the process invoices, which was across there. We've got the purchase invoices value to pay. So these are the ones ready to pay, which is this invoice here. So 96.25, if you see on the right-hand side, the gross total. And we've also got the one obviously this month, because obviously this is the one that's gone through this month so far. Okay, because that's been authorized. Again, obviously both these, and I'll show them bigger in a minute, both these are going to be bigger, but just for the purpose of the demo, I'm just going to show it side by side. Okay, so we're then the information, as I said, we can have a look up here. If I double click on the right hand side, I'm going to then pull up this invoice itself. So the invoice itself here, you always see the image. It's been changed into black and white for size purposes and things like that, but you can have this in color. It's entirely up to you. Okay, and what you have the option. So this is with Workflow Financial Controller. We have it based on rules. So I'll show you the rules in a second in terms of if it's over a certain amount, so I think it's over £500, it goes to the director. If it's under £500, it will go for the financial controller. So again, you're distributing out based on business rules. You can also have the business rules to set that certain managers will only deal with certain suppliers, as an example. So all their supplier invoices go to one person for approval. We can have those types of conversations, not a problem at all. Again, you always get an information here about what the task is actually asking the user to do. So this one is a general task. Please approve or reject invoice. So we've got two outcomes here. Again, fully customizable, this one, so it can say different words to what you've got to suit your business needs and what your team is familiar with. Same as the right-hand side. They can be amended, so it can say vendor if you want to instead of supplier name. If I was to click on reject, what then happens is a box will populate up here, and I can have a reason list, and these reason lists can be constantly why you're rejecting invoices. So it really then cuts down the time of typing out an invoice, reason in a note form. But if you did want your staff or people in the department, the managers or whatever, to elaborate on why they're rejecting it, you can then turn around and add a note in there. Important that all the notes will be added to the document itself, and it will stay with its duration of time inside the system. Okay. So if I was to click approve on this one, okay, then what that does then, that will go on to another area inside the business. So in this case, it will go back to accounts. And then what that actually does is so bear with me. So what then that actually does is, so that goes into there, and then that will go to please for arrange payment. Okay, so if we do, I don't know, another one of this one here. So we've got this one here, and we've got now invoice approved in here. So that invoice approved then will then turn around and it will update the status of invoice approved. Okay. And then it will also give the accounts, the workflow accounts task as the main user, and that main user then has the same task as before. To please pay rate. They'll turn around and they'll go into their finance system. That will be released as the information was sent across. But if we notice on here as well, so if I turned around and just refreshed on the left-hand side, I will then see information, and again, this would all be real-time refreshment as well. So on the left-hand side here, you will see that now that number has gone increased because now we have 2 invoices on the left-hand side of this value. So you can definitely see an overview now of these 2 invoices. And again, on the right, I can filter it this side. So I've got 2 invoices, and I can see it in there from that perspective on there. In terms of the collaboration between the 2, it can be live, it can be updating every day. It's entirely up to you. And again, the preference is obviously if I just expand out this side as well. So we can turn around. So this is the full dashboard view, if you like. You've got full information down here of the PIs to approve in the live environment. You've also then got the purchase invoice to pay in the live environment. So you've got the 2 there that's been updated. You've also then got information even further. So the purchase invoices from the invoice processing system. You've got different charts you can do as well. So you can have invoices processed by month. So then you've got full visibility there by who has done what. So this is that's the financial controller. You've then got another color for the director, and you can really start seeing that how many invoices have been processed by a certain person each month. You've then got average time to approve invoices as well, so you can start really drilling down, and you can really start, like I said at the start, you can turn around and go, I really want to drive them down in terms of how long it process those invoices. Again, you wouldn't have this overview necessarily if inside your account system, because the invoices up won't be necessarily there, but you're looking at an overview, if you like, in terms of what's outstanding in the workflow and the current processes, or the current process outside of what I just showed you. Again, tabbing backwards and forwards becomes very simple. In terms of then the live updates, we have this thing called the machine learning inside the invoice process. Inside the business intelligence solution. This will then start learning the patterns from an AI perspective, artificial intelligence, and it starts learning the process and patterns of your day-to-day workload. And you can start then really going, I found this useful, and it will start showing you more and more of those pieces of information in your data behind the scenes. So it all comes hand in hand. Okay, the other thing I was going to show you as well in terms of from the document management, so I'm just flicking back to the document management now. You can now turn around and go and search for the physical documents, and I can search for them quite simply on status. So I can do invoice approved as an example, and I will see these two invoices here that were already in there ready to approve, and this has been approved, what we saw earlier. I can also see then the properties of when that has been approved, so I can see exactly what's happened all the time to that document. So from a GDPR perspective, you're now automatically, as soon as it's been filed, start seeing a complete workflow and audit trail. You can also see in terms of the supplier, so you can see those underlined. I can do another search within a search within the system, and I can pull back the information regarding that supplier and other documents filed against it. So here I have a purchase order for that purchase invoice. So I can start storing different types of documents now, and then we can go through and do all that. In terms of seeing the information, you can see the information here. So I can scroll to the right, and I can start searching on dates if I had date fields, and I can, if I do month end, I can start opening them and things like that. Okay. Any questions? Any questions, anyone? I can't see anything in the chat at all. All good? Hands up if you're all good and no questions at all. No? Okay, so that's really it for the presentation itself. It's important to understand these systems, like I said, from a scalability perspective, can come separately. They do work, as you can see, very well together. But we can look at, if you've already got an invoice processing solution, but you don't have document management, we can look to get involved with something there and helping join in systems together. So from an integration perspective, if you have document management and you have invoice processing, but you don't have the intelligence in terms of the business intelligence on top of stuff, we can then come in and talk to you about business intelligence. So my information is all over obviously the webinar, things like that. If you do want to contact me, we are offering some free consultation at the moment, so please feel free to book in that, and we can go through your process. If you want to hear more about you, obviously, as you've heard about us, you can get in touch with me and we can have an hour, 2-hour chat about your process and how we can help you. And yeah, so thanks for watching. The session, like I said, is being recorded, so please feel free. The email will come straight out after this, after I've stopped showing. And you should be able to get a link and share with your colleagues. But yeah, thanks for watching, and hope to hear from you soon.